Previously on Bryan Mullins the Fox.
I know you envy me, Vlad. I really do. But I disavow you only for the fact that you took Kaz Warfuck seriously at all.
When I wrote that, I thought I was just making casual conversation, but, ultimately, I guess not. I guess you took it to heart.
Gilded Poo, you better not use this opportunity to use this as a situation to get at Lyle with the adult adopting adult situation where you do it despite Lyle. Because if you do, I will call you out. I will go full scorched earth.
You need to drop the whole furry shtick because it's rotting your brain. I have nothing against you personally, Bryan. I don't hate you.
If porn's allowed to be fiction and it harms no one, not even children, then it shouldn't be illegal. It's a pretty controversial take. I'm not pro-CP. Of course not. I'm anti-CP, but I'm also against banning it.
You're against CP, but are in favor of it being legal. What?
How come it's only a bad thing that predators exploit children, but not bad when the government or law enforcement exploit children themselves? How come it's only a bad thing when predators do it, but also not when parents do it? How come we only care to weaponize stigmatization and child porn being illegal against those who consume it, pedophiles and predators, but no one the fuck else, even children/minors themselves? Because if and when we humanize pedophiles/predators, we understand what their problem is in a more humane way.
I find it really weird you're empathizing with pedophiles and child predators this hard. It's a little fucking weird. I don't know why you're doing it.
These monsters are no less human than you and me. They're not even any less human than we are as a society.
Just because they may be physiologically human doesn't mean that there's any merit in calling them human.
Note, this is not child abuse, but suppressing their innocence by depriving them of that sexual knowledge is. In fact, if you want a brother or a sister and you're a little kid, ask them kindly, if they may allow you to. Watch in a safe enough angle the process of intercourse without scarring you any further for life.
That is both child abuse and insanely illegal.
And now,
Gilded Poo is requesting I watch something, and I know who Bryan Mullins is. I'm just not ready for this. I'm kind of afraid the International Child Sex Trafficking Industrial Complex. Should we really say... Wait, what?
What is this title? Should we really save all children? The child prostitute question. Short form rant number 10. The fuck did you send me?
Should we really save all children? In brackets, the child prostitute question. What the fuck is this?
This is a horrible argument. This is a terrible argument. I can tell you right now that this argument is bad and this is not philosophically sound.
what? Okay.
This is so insane.
You're a freak. Bryan Mullins, you're a fucking freak.
He's minority reporting minors.
Yes, he is. He is minority reporting minors.
I'm fucking... fuck this shit. The internet is a dangerous place. I'm done. I'm fucking done with this shit. I've been waiting for an excuse. I've been waiting. This has pushed me over the edge. What the fuck is this?
Oh, I don't understand what his position is.
What is this? What is this?
This is amazing.
Welcome to the grand finale of Bryan Mullins the Fox videos by me, your host, Gilded Poo. Now that doesn't mean that I won't be talking about Bryan Mullins ever again, because of course I will in an upcoming podcast called the L&L Podcast, aka Liquor and Lolcows. That's what the L and L stand for, not loser and loser, just so you can make sure that's very clear before all the jokes start rolling in. What are we talking about today? Well, today I got some updates for you on Bryan Mullins, and the first update, before we get into the mega response that follows, this is going to be a really long video, by the way, we're going to talk about how Bryan Mullins swears up and down he is not, in fact, a lolcow.
Pro tip. If any one of your own detractors has to impersonate you to generate lolcow content, despite you being completely unaware that all this is happening, you're not a lolcow. The impersonator is the real lolcow. I am not sure as to how much longer that the word lolcow would have legit meaning. It shouldn't have to be that you're a laughingstock, even if you've done nothing to earn the title to begin with.
And by the way, the term lolcow is in quotations because you can take the word lolcow with a huge grain of salt. Given the fact that it's so constantly weaponized against people anyone disagrees with, and then they just milk content like that for the lulz from here on out until it all dries up.
And of course, since this is a giant response video, essentially, we're going to be debunking that claim, or debunked, or whatever the fuck word he used when he said this.
It was debunked!
So what evidence do I have of said lolcow behavior? Well, how about this?
I just had this question, which is ironic as fuck, through heavy brainstorming. How can a tank that weighs nowhere near as heavy as a passenger plane, can't fly, and couldn't come any closer at its heaviest, but a plane can? That makes no sense. Someone somewhere make that make sense to me.
It's an absolute mystery, and anyway, that wouldn't be the last community post he made about tanks. He made a follow-up to that.
Maybe if they made a tank aerodivergent, it could fly. Normal tanks just can't fly.
Aerodivergent. And while we're on the topic of absolute hilarity, let's talk about the never-ending battle between Bryan Mullins and laptops.
So fucking goddamn done with this 3-year-old dysfunctional, partially unhinged laptop. Again, I've shown you this. Let me look at it closer. Look at this. I've had this kept in a box in my laundry room for over a year and like 2-3 months. And that's why my morning didn't start out right. I only got between nearly 6 hours of sleep to almost 6 hours of sleep. I'm going to have so much fun when no one's around, destroying my old dysfunctional PC. Yeah! Woo! Destroying this piece of shit laptop. Fucking hell. Good riddance, that old 3-year-old fucking broken touchscreen laptop with a very shitty design. It failed to update twice, and I guess it really has no other use, because I've really gotten only the best files from that old computer onto my newer computer, so I guess it's over.
So that laptop video was from like a year or two ago or some shit. I was kind of curious, personally. What happened to the new laptop? We saw what happened to the old one. What about the new one? Well, I have come with sad tidings, my lovely audience. That laptop has very recently passed away.
I get the reason why my refurbished laptop went to shit. It was because I shouldn't have put it in the same pocket as my hair comb. And the hair comb pretty much fucked it up. Well, I've learned a bunch of lessons that had nothing to do with not making the drive or the computer crap out on its own. It's just that I have to put it in a safer place that isn't with a hair comb.
Yeah, it was a hair comb. That's what did it. Moving on, Bryan Mullins is so much not a lolcow that he did something very useful. Something that you have never done in your life. Bryan Mullins made a tutorial video on how to wipe your ass. Anyway, the most egregious thing that Bryan has ever done is said this line.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
Now, those of you who are, of course, based and scotch-pilled may actually recognize that line from this.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
Yeah, he just straight up stole that from Count Dankula. Now granted, Count Dankula may not have invented that line, but by God, he is most certainly the most popular person to have used it. And Bryan Mullins stole that, and we cannot have that, okay? That's just fucked up.
I'm not going to kill you, but your fatherless behaviour is embarrassing us. Stop it.
Bryan Mullins was challenged to a debate with Ace. This is how it went.
We got this right here. I asked him, when are you free to come on stream to have a conversation? Because at this point, I've asked him a couple times, right? And then he says, I don't speak English. Your videos are in English and we talked on the community tab. What do you mean? And then he said nothing after this. So this made me... He was so gay. I wish I could have had a conversation with him. Because fuck me. He ran.
Look, to be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure that that's Lolcow behavior, but fuck, man, that is a rare Bryan W. That's actually pretty fucking funny. Anyway, what's really funny, however, is Bryan Mullins' comedy channel.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not.
That's right, he has a comedy channel with such hits as this. Aside from him thinking fart jokes are absolutely fucking hysterical, I need to point out that Bryan just straight up admits in the following clip that he's been stealing content and uploading it to the Comedy Archive channel, and that's how his channel's been growing.
Man, it just seems like my main channel's dying, but my Comedy Archive is still thriving, and that part's hilarious, I know. And all of this is basically because the death of the reversed content format in late 2021 was the reason my main channel's dying now, despite all the views I'm getting from my most popular videos, commentary/rant videos, long-form commentary videos, response videos, compilations, etc., etc. That's also why the Comedy Archive grew this fast to this extent, and even then some in the future. By April 18th of next year in 2025, I will document the sub count, the total view count, and compare it to 1 year before that, just so I can hone in on the attention my channel has gotten because of reversed content's great comeback of 2024.
I don't know why we're calling this a comedy archive when all you're posting is you farting and stolen content. Now, with all that out of the way, let's give a few updates. If you remember correctly, LFC One, or his long-form content one video, the one where he's talking about legalizing child porn that was removed from YouTube.
If porn's allowed to be fiction and it harms no one, not even children, then it shouldn't be illegal. It's a pretty controversial take. I'm not pro-CP. Of course not. I'm anti-CP, but I'm also against banning it.
Yeah, that video has been recently re-uploaded by Bryan, Censored. I have not went back through to watch the entirety of the video to see what he did and didn't censor, because I don't really care that much. However, what is important to note is what he said at the start of the video.
1 year ago, on April 9th, 2024, Bryan Mullins the Fox released what has been the most legendary long-form commentary video of all time. This video has survived and outlived all the BS censorship, fake internet drama, and every other misrepresentation of it. After all the lies, all the drama, all the complete strawmanning of it, that most of everyone else has done could never stop the truth from being exposed in the first place. There's no wonder why most of everyone reacted to it with hostility and fervent loathing. It has hit far too close to home for them. I've learned a lot from my own video, and so will you.
Yeah, that's some top-of-the-line fucking copium there. He learned an awful lot from his own video. Everybody was strawmanning him. He's the victim. But what's more insane than that is that's not the only time, of course, that he has been coping after that video was removed from the internet. So ahead of the release of the upcoming censored version of LFC One, he talked about it fucking incessantly.
I hope this video can help you digest LFC One censored version sometime very soon. I hope that the censored version of LFC One not only stays up on YouTube, but also that the people can understand what I say a whole lot better. I can only hope though. I don't exactly know the depths of insanity that some people are on nowadays. Prepare for the unexpected.
Now, this just gives you a little window into understanding just how upset Bryan Mullins was that that video was removed from YouTube. Now, to be fair here, I am not in favor of that video being removed from YouTube. I find it fucking stupid that members of Dead Wing Dorks community were the ones that, in all likelihood, flagged that video down. I don't know why anybody has to be a little do-gooder fairy retard on the internet. Stop it. Anyway, more importantly, aside from the Stitches Get Stitches sentiment, I need to point point out that Bryan Mullins didn't just write community posts discussing this, showcasing again a window into how upset he was. No. He crashed the fuck out.
I'm sick and tired of having to respect people's platforms if all they're gonna do is try to flag me down. One of these days it's gonna get brutal. One of these days it's gonna get fucking ugly. One of these days I will snap. And you all don't want that, do you?
Sitting there whining and bitching and moaning about your shit being taken off of YouTube, which, by the way, was completely fair. I understand being upset about that, but holy fuck, should probably calm down, chill out. Like, smoke meth or something. I don't fucking know.
One of these days, I will be taken so far out of context, I would probably be able to fucking flag people down. I'd be able to even DMCA if it goes further than just misinformation or bullying or being false flagged on a massive scale.
Why? Why are you saying this, man?
I feel so much better for venting that off. Because if I didn't vent that off in any way, shape, or form almost immediately, I would have cried. I would have actually cried tears.
I'm not a lolcow. I would have cried. Really?
So what you're doing now is attempting to deplatform me, to silence me completely.
I'm not. I do not want you deplatformed. I want you to stay on this platform. 1,000 years of Bryan Mullins the Fox content.
Took LFC One, put words in my mouth, took it completely out of context, said that anybody who flagged it was a massive coward, and then you decide to turn on me because what? I wasn't thankful enough for calling them out for being cowards? And you not having any self-awareness to the fact that you contributed to this happening. I see how it is.
You should have been very thankful. Instead, what you did was you pointed the finger at me after all of that happened and tried to blame me for something I didn't even do. Just because I criticized the video doesn't mean in any way, shape, or form I was in favor of that video being removed from YouTube. Anyway, moving on from that, we need to discuss the fact that Bryan Mullins the Fox has some, dental issues.
You have a right to not hurt yourself. You have the right to not harm yourself. You have a right to oppose anything the government forces you to fucking comply to or steals your
So that totally not edited clip was from a video he uploaded on November 24th, 2024. The following screen cap was from a community post that he posted in April of 2025.
Yesterday, I had a double tooth extraction. I should go back to doing whatever I can to make and script videos at the library today at noon.
Like, seriously, Bryan, in November of 2024, you looked like this. And now you're telling us in April of 2025 you had 2 more teeth removed, presumably from the top of your mouth? The only reason I bring that up at all is because he made this community post.
And look, I tried to make the Pooh Beard's teeth as accurate as possible.
Yeah, so, real talk, Bryan. I don't really think that you're the best person to be talking about anybody's fucking teeth. Now, normally that would be a great segue into the next topic, which is, me versus Bryan. But, I forgot to mention the LFC 6 cope that he posted.
This video stood the test of time when it came out, and it still does.
Little reminder, the thing that he's saying aged really well was him saying shit like this in the very video he's referencing there.
If you want a brother or a sister and you're a little kid, ask them kindly, if they may allow you to. Watch in a safe enough angle the process of intercourse without scarring you any further for life.
Yeah, Bryan, that aged very well. It aged about as well as a coffee cup of wine freshly removed from the microwave.
Here it is. I'll give it at least a minute and 50 seconds. Here it is, the finished product. Hot steaming Merlot. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, he does that. And he also did a part 2 to that, by the way.
And as you can see, the nice hot wine is steaming. There's some stains from the last time we did this microwave hot wine experiment, but it's okay. If Anything it could add to the flavor.
And by the way, if you're enjoying this video thus far, and want to see more videos covering Bryan Mullins the Fox, I have great news for you. If you haven't seen him, I got a whole playlist. This is the 6th one in the playlist, so link down below and all that other shit. And while you're down there, actually, in the description, you might as well check out my Patreon. And on that Patreon, you can subscribe for anywhere from $1, $5, or even all the way up to $50, and provide me with the booze I need to continue making stupid fucking bullshit like this fucking video. And if you don't want to do that, be sure to like and subscribe and all that other gay shit. But anyway, moving on.
My response to @GildedPoo's failed character assassination attempt.
Why does it matter that much to you that none of my crushes were human? What's it to you, fucknut? All the crushes I've ever had as a kid growing up and even to this day are not real, and even still, they're animals. A furry is an anthropomorphic version of a character or a persona. There is no reason to be super highly obsessive over who has what crush, what reason, why. It's just fucking creepy for you to do that.
Who are his fictional animal crushes? These. Ultimately, yeah, it's fucking weird, Bryan.
And again, you still have this false notion that every furry wants to fuck an animal, which is highly beyond me because he has a fetish with killing furries, with wanting them to die, with wanting them to fucking kill themselves. And I find that absolutely and unbelievably hypocritical because you shat on Hopeless Peaches in a community post for lying or using false zoophilia or zoosadism accusations against people doesn't make you better. It makes you a waste of space and you're a piece of shit for doing it. And now you've become that piece of shit. Learn what fucking hypocrisy means, Vlad.
Number one, yeah, there are way too many furries that are sexually interested in animals. It's a weird fucking pattern. Also, there's a lot of furries that are a little too interested in children. I never said it was all of them, but it's a lot of them. Secondly, more importantly than that, the screen cap that he's showing on the screen is actually this one. I don't understand what he's trying to say here. When did I actually call him a zoophile? Oh, that might have been when he admitted to fapping to characters like Sasha LaFleur and even wrote like rape fantasy fan fictions about having sex with Sasha LaFleur. You're the one that said that you have crushes on animals. Just because they're fictional doesn't take away from the idea if you were left alone in a room with an otter, you'd probably fuck the otter, given the fact you have a crush on a cartoon otter. There's nothing about this take that's inconsistent or hypocritical, so the only person that should be looking up the definition of hypocrisy would have to be you. Now, a quick preface before I show the next clip. I'm going to show you a different clip from a previous video that I made so that you know what Bryan is responding to here. Because, frankly speaking, Bryan did a very poor job of clipping me. It's a weird resolution. It looks like shit. Enjoy the clip of Past Me mentioning something that Bryan deeply misunderstood. So you've heard his takes on child porn, on his animal crushes, and we now know that one of his pals is most definitely at minimum sus, but I would call a pedophile personally. I would not trust Mongrel to watch my kid, and I most certainly wouldn't trust Bryan Mullins the Fox to watch my kid.
You wouldn't trust any fucking stranger to watch your kid, because guess what? That's your job. That's your literal job. Why would you need to say that if you know it's your fucking job? That's so retarded. And plus, you brought your own fucking kids into this. It's your fucking fault that Lio dragged your fucking kids into this past drama between you and him. Cause you make your children public, as in they exist. Never ever mention that you have family or kids on the internet like this, because it's gonna make you look no differently than that fat fucking bastard Lio Convoy.
So to make this very clear, I never, at any point, made my child public. Never happened. In fact, up until Lio made that video, that infamous video, I had never mentioned my kid in any video. In fact, most people that watched his video were very surprised that I had a kid at all. And by the way, if it's not immediately obvious to any of the autistic people watching, Bryan is too retarded to understand that the phrase, "I would not allow X person to watch my kid," is little more than a figure of speech. A figure of speech often used by people to establish the opinion that the person that they're talking about is either not trustworthy or is suspect. It is not actually a statement of literally saying, hey, I'm looking for somebody to watch my kid, but not you, bro, not you. That's not what that means. Anyways, I'm going to show you yet another past clip of me, then we're going to show Bryan responding to that. Because Bryan sucks at editing! So right out the gate, Bryan is quite literally promoting child abuse. The reason why I say it's child abuse, for those of you that don't have children, whenever the kid shits themselves, if you don't change it immediately, they can develop a rash, a very uncomfortable rash, and it can get infected and all that other not fun, gross shit. If you don't change the diaper every time and just let it sit there and fester, that's ultimately generally the result. You actually want to change the diaper immediately as soon as you smell that smelly smell. Bryan is literally promoting the opposite of that in the effort of saving money. And if really saving money is the goal, why not just say, well, fuck the kid entirely and just never change their diapers. Just let them shit all over the fucking floor and piss all over everywhere. Wouldn't that save you loads of money on diapers? You could just use a reusable diaper if you really, really are that money conscious. Bryan has no idea what he's talking about. He has no kids. Nobody's ever gonna fuck Bryan because he's a fucking virgin and he's fat.
I never said never change their diaper. You never know what you're gonna feed that baby and how it's going to affect their tummy. Not all babies or children are created equal. Sometimes you would have to change them often, as in like the first 2 hours or less. But again, it doesn't represent all babies because they're not all like that. Some babies get constipated and may not need to change their diapers all that much. And it's not just about saving money. It's also about you being a worthwhile resource as a parent by not being wasteful. You cannot just change a diaper the moment a baby shits in it. And if you were to do, it would almost certainly not be as common as you think it is. And clearly I did not say let them shit all over the floor. Fuck off. I only said change the diaper of the baby between whatever range of hours depending on their age. That was it. I don't have to be a parent to tell you that just because a baby shits in a diaper doesn't always mean you're gonna smell it immediately. Only change it when you actually cannot ignore that smell, like what I said in that video.
Alright, so a couple things here. Number one, I didn't say that you said let them shit on the floor. What I was saying was if you wanted to save the maximum amount of money possible, just let them shit on the floor. Then you don't have to spend any money at all. Well, at least not on diapers. You were talking about all the money you could save as a parent. This was your entire point. This was your entire argument. This is why I brought up reusable diapers and how you could use reusable diapers to save money. However, when you say shit like you should only change it when you can't ignore the smell anymore, you shouldn't just change it every single time it poops just because it poops. That is actually just child abuse. You're talking about neglect. You should actually change the diaper every time you smell the smell. Not when you can't ignore it anymore. Every single time, no exception, immediately upon smelling it. But on top of all of that, yeah, Bryan, you kinda have to be a parent to tell me how to parent. You've never changed a diaper in your life. You don't have any fucking kids because you're a balding, toothless virgin, number one. Number two, I highly doubt anybody's gonna let you watch their fucking kids, let alone any of their animals, because you're a fucking freak.
State of the Dramatic Fox, Episode 3, Gallagher, the Obsessed Derp, and Gilded Pooh, the Child Abuser.
Seems like Gilded Pooh just mostly ignores me except for the time I was talking about the election, assuming that I don't know anything about politics and how the election works, going, breaking, Bryan Mullins the Fox concedes the election.
Yeah, because you literally wrote, I concede the election. It was funny. It was a joke. Come on. This is why I get mad whenever people are like, Bryan's a troll. This motherfucker has no concept of humor or irony at all. Like, he thinks fucking fart noises are the funniest thing on the fucking planet. This guy is actually just retarded and malicious, but retarded.
I've been so successful at recovering from Gilded Pooh's bullshit-ass assassination attempt at my character to sum his dogshit video response up not giving your babies or those who still wear diapers reusable ones as child abuse, even though disposable diapers are a lot better than reusable diapers, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Gilded Poo, through extension of using shitty reusable diapers, to where they're shitting all over the floor, walking in their own shit and piss, getting rashes, potentially sometimes infections, alongside with teaching them how to cuss and call themselves retards, I can safely say without making a bold statement that Gilded Poo is a child abuser.
What is this schizophrenic bullshit, man? Holy fuck.
And he also brought his children onto the internet and automatically made them a target by doing so. Vlad, if I ever have kids in the future, if I have a wife, I will never bring them up. I will never talk about them on the internet. I will never make them automatic targets for people like Lio Convoy to go after, to make a shitty point against you. And I will never, ever, for the sake of argument, take your advice seriously. Because even your own advice when it comes to the type of diapers you suggest babies should wear is tantamount to child abuse.
Reusable diapers you can buy on Amazon right now is child abuse. Now, to be fair, you can also buy meth pipes on Amazon. So I tried to record this all in one day. Turns out I can't. So, yeah, this is day 2 of recording.
Thankfully, you don't hear me complaining about it so vehemently and trying to sick the CPS on your ass. I never do that.
Good to hear that, Bryan. I am very, very glad that you are able to, at the very least, accomplish the minimum.
Responding to Gilded Poo, the predator/groomer defender. BMTF, Drama Archive original content.
And for the first time since that response video I made to Gilded Poo back late last September, I'm going to do another one, but this time I'm going to have to defend the person, Mongrel, not the action she was trying to do, but the person only, just for trying to expose a groomer in a server at the time when it was run by a minor.
He says he's going to defend the person, but not the actions. But spoiler alert, he, defends the actions.
Gee, I wonder who the hell thought that was a great idea to let a minor run a Discord server with adult groomers in it.
So what Bryan's doing here is that instead of blaming Mystic Mongrel for posting a Google Drive link that contained titillating images of a minor in it, lewds, he decided to instead blame Harley TBS, the minor at the time that ran that server, for having that server in the first place. Why would you blame the minor for that? Like, it's not the minor's fault that Mystic Mongrel is too retarded to not post links like that in a server with minors in it.
Alongside with other predatory minors who are just the enablers of such.
Predatory minors, you say? Listen, there are in fact minors on the internet that target adult men. And yes, adult women too. Gotta be all inclusive nowadays and hashtag current year and stuff. Whatever. Anyways. And try to, get them to engage in sexual activity online. In real life, we call that jailbait, by the way. However, this discussion only works if you didn't, acquiesce to the minor's demands. Like, you can't be all like, oh my god, this minor messaged me, I got to reply back and then effectively groom the minor, and then later on be like, guys, the minor was a predator the moment you got caught. Like, you can't do that. However, in this particular context, that doesn't work at all. I don't even know why you're even bringing that up.
Eventually, you'll see why I'm surprised by this take by Gilded Poo. Simply defending Nekopan, defending Esmeralda Rueda, defending Ray Rance, defending Rebecca Starlight, not by his own words, I hope, but mainly through actions of having to blame all of this squarely on Mongrel. Victim blaming like this is just the same as defending a predator or groomer, and Mongrel never did any of this to begin with.
All those people he just named, Nekopan and Esmeralda, whatever the fuck, and that other person, I don't know who those people are. I have heard about the Nekopan drama and all that other fucking shit forever, and I don't particularly give a shit because that's all dead drama. All I did was look at the actions of Mystic Mongrel and go, that's a funny retard to bully. That's it. I didn't blame Mystic Mongrel for literally anything that wasn't Mongrel's own actions. I don't particularly give a shit about any of the lore that you're bringing up here, and you know what? Nobody else does either, Bryan. And on top of that, how is going after Mystic Mongrel for Mystic Mongrel's retarded actions in that entire thing a defense of the people that you mention? It's not. It's not a defense at all.
At least she didn't ask a minor at the time to record himself being raped as surveillance or evidence. The fact that Gilded Poo wanted people to think that the whole Jordan recording the essay thing was not that big of a deal, it was debunked or something like that, and yet he's making what Mongrel was doing that much of a big deal. Understand the hypocrisy now?
So before I dig into why everything he just said is fundamentally retarded, I need to point out that this is the clip that he's referring to.
Her other option is, of course, to set up that camera tonight and see what happens.
That's one thing I think should happen either way, is get that camera rolling just in case. Because the moment that's caught on footage,
those are pretty cheap, aren't they?
What
Yeah.
is?
Yeah, like
Cameras.
I was just saying to leave her phone plugged in and just have the phone pointed at her, because nobody's going to suspect a phone on the bedside.
No, but you can. If you see the screen, you can see that it's recording.
Yeah.
So I flip it over.
You better hope it doesn't fall over at night.
Yeah.
I think it'd be better. I think it'd be better if she surely has a desktop PC or a laptop.
She got a new laptop, yeah.
Yeah. Put the camera on that sucker. Have it recording in the corner, minimized, and you're good to go.
Now, you may take issue with this clip and view it as woefully irresponsible, and I would agree. I actually think that's a very dangerous suggestion. The minor in question was claiming that her stepdad or mother's boyfriend or whatever the fuck was groping her in her sleep. Allegedly, the police wouldn't do anything, the mom wouldn't do anything. I find this story to be a little suspect, though Lio Convoy swears up and down there's evidence to support some of these claims, but I digress. I talked to a lawyer, actually spent money to discuss this with a lawyer, and I will be putting the screen cap of that conversation on the screen. Again, if you want to argue the entire thing is dangerous because the boyfriend of her mother might actually see that it's recording and then do something violent in response to the minor, fine. However, if you make the claim that this is illegal, you're just full of shit.
Outside of all of the slop, I don't have to go through it all. I don't have to respond to every single last one. I mainly am going to respond to the meat, as in the heaviest of what would be rarely and vaguely considered substance of a piece of shit slop video. And I call it a slop video because it's just slop.
Nuh-uh.
And fuck the rest of the commentary community especially. You people always talk like you have lived in a glass house this whole time, and you're worried about someone like me for being willing to throw a stone at it, wondering if it might break the glass house you lived in, on YouTube and the internet abroad. And if it does, so be it. I hope you're lucky that you're on the bad side of history and you're not like me, who has to go through all that bullshit in order to prove a point only to be vindicated. That's obviously sarcastic. You're gonna feel like hell. And it's all gonna come crumbling down on you like the glass shards of that once to be glass house after I threw a stone in it.
I have listened to that rant over and over and over and over and over again and have absolutely no idea what the fuck he means. None of that made any fucking sense whatsoever. It's even funnier when you add Skyrim music to it.
And fuck the rest of the commentary community especially. You people always talk like you have lived in a glass house this whole time, and you're worried about someone like me for being willing to throw a stone at it, wondering if it might break the glass house you lived in, on YouTube and the internet abroad. And if it does, so be it. I hope you're lucky that you're on the bad side of history and you're not like me, who has to go through all that bullshit in order to prove a point only to be vindicated. That's obviously sarcastic. You're gonna feel like hell. And it's all gonna come crumbling down on you like the glass shards of that once to be glass house after I threw a stone in it.
I don't don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I don't even give a shit. It's just funny. Oh, and just real quick, before we move on to the next clip of his video we're responding to here in this segment, I want to point out that I'm going to actually make you watch the horrible quality of him clipping me. And the reason why I'm going to make you watch the horrible quality of him clipping me is because you get to see exactly how inept he is at responding to particular claims and statements in a response video. It's actually pretty sad how incredibly inept he actually is at it. And it turns out that this person decided to join some weird group chat on Discord where he received a titillating image of a minor, not a nude, but a titillating image, I guess we'll say a lewd, and then spread it around, sending it to another server that contained a minor, and we know it contained a minor because the head of that server was a minor.
Alright, the grooming thing, I'll explain.
Okay, we're gonna have to go over this little misconception. Not acting upon intrusive thoughts doesn't make you a pedophile.
It's truly hilarious how I said all of that stuff, and you just ignore it completely to focus on a screen cap of Mystic Mongrel talking about having intrusive thoughts about grooming. Don't you want to respond to the other part of that before the screen cap at all? No? Okay.
If anything, it has nothing to do with pedophilia at all, because we're talking about underage teenagers. Teenagers are not prepubescent fucking children, okay?
Yes, Brian, if I go to dictionary.com and I type pedophilia in the fucking search bar, it will, in fact, state that pedophilia is defined as a person, an adult, that is attracted to prepubescent minors. Nobody cares! Nobody gives a shit about the actual dictionary definition of pedophilia. You kinda just look weird for even citing it.
The intrusive thoughts come from being groomed herself.
Now, I want you to remember what he just said, that Mystic Mongrel's intrusive thoughts about grooming children is a byproduct of Mystic Mongrel being groomed itself. I want you to remember that because that'll be 1000% important later on in the video.
And I've said this last time in the last response video. I hope your liver's doing all right with your ADHD-addled retarded ass and your fuck buddies in the commentary community. You're gonna fucking regret it, just like you regretted having simped for Kumo long before this whole shit with Cinebear03 came out. That and Jar.
I don't know why you brought up Jar there. That's a little weird. I have nothing to regret about Jar because I've only ever watched like one of his videos. I don't really know him all that well. I've never hung out with Jar, so I don't know why you even brought him up. And as far as Kumo goes, to this day, I'm still gonna say that the weird cutting thing, I don't give a fuck about. Not my fetish, not my fucking problem, and fuck you. And although Kumo fucked up after the fact, that's not my problem. As stated, those are very oddly specific and arguably autistic intrusive thoughts. In fact, those thoughts are so specific that I'm highly skeptical that they're even intrusive at all. And one of the reasons, aside from the obvious, that I'm bringing the intrusive thoughts about grooming up in this conversation is because a very common counter argument that I've actually heard people say on live stream is that we shouldn't criticize people for intrusive thoughts. I have intrusive thoughts about killing my boss. It's only upon acting upon those thoughts that it really matters. Everybody and their mother has had intrusive thoughts about killing their boss. Basically, everybody has had that thought. That's an entirely normal thing. Most people aren't walking down the street saying, I'm gonna rape that bitch. They don't have those intrusive thoughts. That's not most people. And also, most people...
Of course it's fucked up to have those thoughts, but it's not like those fucking thoughts came out of nowhere. Of course not. It's context you blatantly ignored to make that idiotic point. Intrusive thoughts come as a result of trauma. They come as a result of something they had no power to control or fight back against.
So what's funny here is that Bryan Mullins has actually sprinkled complaints of alleged hypocrisy throughout multiple videos responding to me, which is interesting because in this particular clip of this video, he's making the claim that I completely ignored context in order to bully Mystic Mongrel. Yet, he actually completely clip-chimped what I said. He entirely clipped out context of the very clip he was responding to there. In fact, he cut out the entire start of that clip.
Alright, the grooming thing, I'll explain. When I'm in a really bad position mentally, I'll have intrusive thoughts that I don't act on. Like, fucking hell, does nobody understand what intrusive thoughts are? Unfortunately, my intrusive thoughts include shit that relates to grooming and other gross shit of a sexual nature.
a bit creepy for me, and I crave my buddy up like a pumpkin. Though, if you never once acted on it, we are still cool.
A 15-year-old tried to flirt with me at one point, and I was thoroughly creeped out. This was when I was 23, I think.
Then we're cool. It's the proper reaction to be creeped out. I'm going to be recording more group chats with Neko and putting them together for a context crucifixion. I'm still hyped up to 48 parts now.
2 17-year-olds tried to tell me they wanted to fuck me when I was 23 in a similar time frame, even trying to encourage me by saying they're virgins. Still rejected them because, again, just no. The grooming thing, by the way, was part of a mental health doc I made that helped explain this condition my mental health is in, and the different warning signs of how bad of a situation I'm in mentally, often caused by external factors.
Also, I just want to point out real quick how funny it is that they seem to be having 2 completely different conversations in this particular moment. One guy is like, hey, what's the deal with all these intrusive thoughts? And the other guy is like, oh, it's this, and that. By the way, this minor tried to hit on me, and also these other minors tried to hit on me, while the other guy's desperately trying to fucking change the topic. Mongrel's just over here like, yeah, you know, I had all these minors trying to fuck me, you know, intrusive thoughts and all that jazz. Like, I don't know, it's a very strange conversation to have. It's almost like he's trying to say, super subtly of course, that he wanted to fuck those minors that allegedly hit on him. Yeah, very intrusive thoughts. Yeah, totally, 100%. But the other thing I need to point out here real quick that I feel might get lost if I don't point it out is that claiming that you have intrusive thoughts about grooming a child is a very oddly specific claim. As in, Mongrel isn't making the claim that he has intrusive thoughts about jumping while he's crossing a bridge, or having intrusive thoughts about murdering his boss because his boss didn't give him a raise. No, instead, what he's actually claiming is he has intrusive thoughts about selecting a kid, gaining that kid's trust, isolating the kid, in the hopes of eventually fucking the kid. As stated, those are very oddly specific and arguably autistic intrusive thoughts. In fact, those thoughts are so specific that I'm highly skeptical that they're even intrusive at all. And one of the reasons, aside from the obvious, that I'm bringing the intrusive thoughts about grooming up in this conversation is because a very common counter-argument that I've actually heard people say on live stream is that we shouldn't criticize people for intrusive thoughts. I have intrusive thoughts about killing my boss. It's only upon acting upon those thoughts that it really matters. Everybody and their mother has had intrusive thoughts about killing their boss. Basically, everybody has had that thought. That's an entirely normal thing. Most people aren't walking down the street saying, I'm gonna rape that bitch. They don't have those intrusive thoughts. That's not most people. And also, most people, when walking down the street, aren't, fuck, I'm gonna groom that child today. These thoughts actually just don't exist in the majority of people's minds. And to somehow normalize that thought process, to not see that as a symptom of a deeper problem with that person, is in of itself a problem. And is why a lot of people, like Mystic Mongrel, get away with shit like sending fucking titillating images of minors to other people, especially other minors. He completely ignored the context entirely. So what was that, Bryan, about glass houses that you were stating earlier? I don't know. Food for thought.
I swear to Jesus Christ, if Mongrel commits suicide because all of the shit comes out and people like you, Gilded Poo, say that ignorant shit, I have good news for you people. Good is, of course, sarcastic. You're gonna be shitted on forever.
Number one, thank you, Bryan, for specifying that it was sarcasm. I don't think any of us would have figured that out on our own without your distinct specificity. And secondly, since you have showcased an interest in being pedantic over the English language, I need to point out here that the past tense for shit is shat, much like sit and sat.
You're gonna have blood on your hands. The blood of Mongrel is going to be on the hands of so many, but not mine.
If it were the case that the blood of Mystic Mongrel wound up on my hands as a direct result of bullying Mystic Mongrel to death on the internet, I would then, as a result, use the aforementioned blood on my hands to profusely jerk myself off until the end of time.
My 2 cents on Mulv Cult. North, the child predator. Short rant.
Sharing my 2 cents on the situation surrounding Nvrth, aka Mr. Cult, or how it's spelt, MVKVLT. How I ever caught wind of this to begin with, I will explain. I saw and read Gallagher's post about it.
Now, I need you to remember that little detail, because it'll matter actually here very shortly, that he first heard about Nvrth and his actions through a community post posted by the Gallagher.
And yes, I still remember him back in late 2023 when he tried to school me on what pedophilia is as either a fetish or a paraphilia. And here he is, now admitting that what the victim, given their name will be anonymous, out of respect, posted on X was true and is true.
I'm really afraid to know which side of that argument you were on, bro.
As this shit was coming out about Nvrth, Foxazor then decided to do the only due diligence he needed to and spread the message around to people like Gallagher. Hence how I was able to find this out on my own. It wasn't just Gallagher that found out, it was everyone else.
The only reason Gallagher posted that was not because of Foxazor, it was because of me.
And to put it bluntly, I'm glad this all came out. I'm glad that I am now vindicated through and through.
How are you vindicated? What do you mean? Vindicated how? Like, could you be more specific? Like, what?
And before I sign out, here's a message to Mr. Cult. If by any stretch of the imagination you have the audacity to try to come back to the internet, I will find you. I will find your new nickname and I will bully you. Alright? I hate bullying, but sometimes it's necessary to keep predators away from the internet.
Yeah, bullying bad unless Bryan does it, blah, 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 etc. Anyway, before we move on to the next video I'll be responding to here, here's actually a community post from Bryan that is entirely fucking unhinged.
Imagine sitting on North being a groomer because a cat girl, Enla, didn't tell you about it.
So what's interesting here is that he's making the argument that Enla is the one that gave me the link to that thread, which is not what happened. If you at all watch my video on the Nvrth shit, you will see that that is not the case. In fact, the person that gave me that link on December 2nd, by the way, was Romantic Goblin. If you don't know who Romantic Goblin is, it doesn't really matter. But if you do and you don't like her, that doesn't really matter either. Because, like it or not, that was a W at the end of the day. Because I took that link, I immediately went to Lio Convoy, I believe the next day after I looked over it a bit, and him and I both decided that we were going to mutually post that link in both of our servers, adding everyone. And it was because of that action that Foxazor got wind of it. It's because of that action that Gallagher got wind of it. It's because of that action that we got confessions from Nvrth at all.
I was one of the first few people who talked about it back in early December. Why didn't you make a video about it at least in early January 2025?
Because, fundamentally, Bryan, despite the fact you call my content slop, what does that make yours? You don't actually do anything. You barely do any editing, and what editing you do, haha, you suck at. All you did was you pressed the record button, shoved your balding, toothless fucking face into a microphone, and fucking rambled for, 5-6 minutes. Congratulations, Bryan. Once again, you successfully accomplished the minimum.
Should parents be imprisoned for life for a mass/school shooting if the dead shooter is a minor?
The fact that anyone puts parents on the highest pedestal instead of directly hitting the nail on the head and swallowing the giant pill of their own pride, saying, I helped cause this because parents like me are ignorant and or may or should be held legally responsible if need be. It shouldn't have to matter whether or not they, as in the parents, were involved in egging the shooter on or directly inciting or being involved in the shooting to begin with.
So I understand that some of you might have heard that just then and think, wow, that's a jump. Like, we went from that other shit to this. This is like a massive leap. Like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? And I apologize for the whiplash, but I need to point out that this segment, this entire video he made is important for you to understand what follows this segment. We need to establish just how much Bryan really seems to have an issue with parents. Like, he really does. If there's anything Bryan is, I guess, racist towards, it is people that have children. With all that said, yeah, he did in fact just say that if your kid shoots up a school or goes and shoots up a mall, that the parents should also be tried for the same crime. But don't worry, it gets worse.
Number 1, the parents would tend to get arrested for a crime that only a child committed under their noses. It could be any crime. Kids can't be tried in the court of law because they're not adults.
See, I told you, it gets worse. So now he's expanded it to include all crimes because children are allegedly too young to be tried, which actually isn't true. You can be tried as a minor. There is a thing called juvie. These are things that do exist, Brian.
If the suspect, that's either a minor or even child, dies before they could ever be tried in a court of law as adults later on, the parent should absolutely be the one held most responsible and serve the utmost time behind bars. No fucking questions asked.
He was really mad at his, dad or mom that day or something. Yeah. What I want to understand is why he said tried as an adult later. So you shoot up a school and then they wait for you to become an adult before they try you for shooting up the school? What? Maybe Brian misspoke. Maybe I misunderstood. I don't know.
And to answer that question of should parents be held legally responsible if a dead mass or a school shooter happens to be a minor? Yes, and only if the suspect is or was a minor and died before they could ever begin to have a chance to be tried in court. Anyone else who insanely suggests or argues to me otherwise can suck on this foxdog dick.
Whoa! Holy shit, man, he's pulling out the big words, the big guns, man. Holy shit, man, this guy mad, man. He got him right there. I gotta say, holy shit, I don't even know how to counter that argument outside of you should never be tried for crimes you did not personally commit. But I digress. That would be a normal counter argument, but I think he got me. I think he got me there. I think he wins. I think that's a Brian W. or something, etc.
If there is only a special place in hell for parents or people who aren't parents making excuses as to why we shouldn't, you know the fuck what? Hell is a far nicer place than where they actually belong. That's how fucking bad they are. It would be the gravest insult to the fieriest pits of hell, and that's the worst part about all of this. And if Satan comes a-knockin', tell him hell in a handbasket is a beautiful bouquet of roses. Sure, but they'll never bloom. At least they're not rotten eggs.
What was that rant? I don't even know what that means. What did that mean, Brian? What did that mean? What does it mean? Oh my god.
And don't even fucking get me started with reimbursing the families of the victims of said mass shooting, and it doesn't have to be just one. It could be literally any one of them, no matter how minor or major in scale. Or any of them that involved a minor as the perpetrator, much less an adult one. Oh, well, since our kids have been shot by another kid or an adult, how's about we throw more money at it and see if that makes us feel better inside? Never mind the fact that just throwing money at a travesty like this won't do nothing else.
Also, just for quick, Brian, while we're on the subject of pedantry within the English language, I need to point out that saying things like it ain't gonna do nothing or won't do nothing or whatever exact verbiage you just used there is what's called a double negative. So actually what you said there was that it will do everything.
In fact, the double negative has led to proof positive. I'm afraid you gave yourself away.
Throwing money at a travesty like this won't do nothing else but line the pockets for nothing. Onward to the next shooting, I guess. Never mind the fact that throwing money at shit like this will never get you back all those lives you lost. Because while you cry, piss, and whine about what we should do about tragedies like this, you can't ignore, let alone deny, the real root and stem of all mass and school shooters, without denying that shootings like this happen in the first place at all. Don't throw money at it. If you do, fuck you.
Okay, by the way, I did not add whatever music was going on in the background there. I did not do that. That is all him for some reason. Secondly, more importantly than that, fuck you parents for setting up GoFundMes for funerals. That's what he's saying right now. It's amazing. It's great.
Don't advocate that we ban anything because of it, let alone semi-automatic rifles or weapons, because that makes less than no difference. And if you do anyway, fucking fuck off. You fucking pieces of shit let it happen all the time. And we're supposed to feel sorry and bad for you?
You're goddamn right. Based.
I don't want to ever let a parent like that, or a parent like what I've illustrated in this video, get away with what should have been a first-degree felony in this country, much less any other.
So what I'm thinking is that Brian had an argument with his dad. His dad completely disagreed with him and made him angry. And so he made this video to spurg on the internet.
And before I'm done with this video, I just want to say, I've made myself clear, and anyone else who says that this was all a waste of time and I should stop doing commentaries or rants altogether, fuck you. I'm Bryan Mullins, the Fox, signing out. Whoo-wee, that was fucking good.
That it was, Brian, that it was. It was great. Fucking 10 out of 10. It's amazing. Anyway.
And now, our feature presentation.
Should we really save all children? The child prostitute question. Short form rant number 10.
This shouldn't take too long to ask you. Should we really save all the children, even when it's entirely possible that they become child predators themselves towards other children by being prostitutes? It's also known as the child prostitute question.
Why? Why is this a subject? Why are we having this discussion? Why are you asking this?
Because if you unironically answer this great question of mine with a yes, then congratulations, you're a fucking moron. Maybe you should start reconsidering that question now.
No.
Saving these predatory children will only exacerbate the problem by further enriching the child sex trafficking rings, the deep state, and all the other organizations I said were involved, including the black market, and keep it all alive.
Oh yeah, Brian, 100%. Predatory children. Yes. These children are just waking up one day at like 10, 11, 12, and they're like, I want to be a prostitute, right? That's exactly what they're doing. In no way, shape, or form do they have some weirdo from like Mexico or something pointing a fucking gun to their head and pulling the trigger. Doesn't fucking happen. It's never happened before in the history of ever. It's very much the conscious decisions of children. I had no idea what filthy fucking degenerates they are.
Number 1, just because they're children or under the age of 18 does not mean that you should deny or entirely rule out the possibility of child prostitutes existing. Because they do. And what's the fucking point in saying that no child becomes a child predator to another child themselves if you just silently go along and nod your head with the people that deny that this happens at all?
There is exactly 0 people on Earth that deny either of those two things. In fact, Brian, this is what we call in the business of rhetorical pedantry, aka debate pedophilia, a informal logical fallacy known as a straw man argument. God, that was really obnoxious. Holy fuck.
Why can't you just be honest and say that you don't give a shit and you shouldn't have to answer these questions?
You know, it's funny you say that, Brian, because I actually just don't give a shit about the child prostitute question. I don't give a shit about all those kids that are being sex trafficked anywhere, actually, because they're not my kids. In fact, the only thing I really do care about in the entirety of this context is your take on this issue that I don't care about.
And if they're deadly enough, kill off all child prostitutes, prepubescent and otherwise, unironically.
Yes, 100%. Let's go. Take them out, man. Those fucking sick, degenerate kids, man. They make me sick. So essentially what he's arguing is that we should save all the kids, but by killing the kids that are prostitutes as to not permit them to prey upon other kids in the future when they become adults. So effectively making the argument we should save all the children by killing some of the children. Based on that logic alone, you should view it as a good thing if mongrel's blood wound up on my hands.
And leave the adult prostitutes and child sex traffickers to rot and die on their own in prison.
So the adults go to prison and die in prison, but the children we put to death.
Why? The International Child Sex Trafficking Industrial Complex. Part 1. Point of Origin. Short form commentary, number 10.
And as I've said before, calling abuse material so-called pornography and making that illegal as the basis of and for said laws before 2000 is and was the very reason why it's such an international problem to begin with, outside of it being completely tone-deaf and distasteful to call that porn at all. Because not only does it normalize child predation by design, it also spits in the face of children who are sexually exploited for the sole purpose of prostitution.
So we're going to ignore for the moment his entire take about porn there and go in way more depth about that a little later in this segment. However, what's important to note here is him acknowledging that child prostitutes are exploited. So which is it, Brian? Do you think that these children are being exploited against their will? Or do you think that these children at 11 years old just wake up in the morning and think, gee golly gosh guys, I want to go to Mexico and join the cartel's venture in child prostitution? In either case, I guess Brian wants them dead, I suppose. Whatever.
To be frank, age when it comes to prostitution in general shouldn't change dick.
First off, phrasing. Secondly, more importantly, there's clearly a difference between a child prostitute and the bitch on the street corner. The adult can actually make that decision, and the kid can't.
A guy could just record himself fucking a prostitute as an adult, and them both being adults, they can do it, and can get away with even establishing a prostitution ring back then, or even as of now. But when an actual child rapist and predator records it and did it to a minor, it was treated way worse than murder, and that is made illegal.
Number one, it is not in fact the case, in any legal sense of the word, that a person recording himself having sex with a child is in any way seen as worse than murder. At least, again, not legally speaking. In fact, if you murder somebody, you go to prison for either the rest of your life or until they just put you to death. This is not the case for somebody that recorded themselves having sex with a kid. However, I would like to make the argument that most people wish it were. And that brings about my second question. You don't? Why wouldn't you? Why on earth would you not wish that that was treated worse than murder?
But when some nobody pedo or a group of pedos jerk off to pixels on a screen that they had no involvement as of the making of, treat them worse than a serial killer.
When does that happen? What are you talking about? Are you talking about legally? Because legally, no. That's just not true.
My stance on prostitution is that it should all be illegal, and I stand firmly by that without question. Not even celebrities should do it. Adults doing it to other adults should be frowned upon as well, even when it comes to murdering a prostitute over a payday dispute. Although, I wouldn't say murdering prostitutes is completely off the table just yet, as I will mention in the next video.
So much for them spending the rest of their lives in prison or whatever that he said earlier. Nah, fucking just don't pay them and just shoot them in the fucking head, right, Brian?
I don't mind when a 17-year-old might get into doing that, because even if there were 17-year-old porn stars, and they're this close to being an adult when they turn 18 anyway, at least they're staging it so they're not actually being harmed. I don't like that kind of shit, but I'm not a hypocrite.
Wait for it.
Porn is staged in nature, and the ones that were forced to be so-called real, they're not porn, and they can't possibly be staged.
All right, so you heard all that, right? Yeah, isn't that amazing? So you might be very confused. Some question marks might be popping up in your head or whatever. And here's the thing. I stayed up all night long one night trying to write this fucking thesis. I was going to go through the trouble of dragging you through my thesis and everything to really lay out in autistic detail exactly how he views porn. But then a third-party source took a screen cap of a conversation that occurred in Bryan Mullins' own Discord server where the following statements were made.
Do you think during porn the actors aren't actually having sex? Of course. I just believe that porn in general is fake. But I saw a porn, Brian. The man's penis was going in the girl's vagina. Are you sure they are penetrating each other, or is there a slight deception with the angle?
Yeah, that's right. Bryan actually does not believe there is actual sexual acts or penetration in pornography at all. So whenever he's making these autistic distinctions between child porn and CSAM...
The problem wasn't that these human traffickers were creating the child porn. It's not even considered porn because porn is fiction. They were recording themselves, raping minors, taking pictures of them naked whilst about to fuck them, and these minors and or children having this happen to them because by your own logic, if you were to call this quote-unquote child porn, it would have to be real in the sense where in your weird, twisted, demented alternative to reality, they can consent when they can't, and that they actually orgasm to this when they're not. They're forced to this against their will. They have to react this way because they're being forced. That's not pornographic. That's actually counter to it. Because of course, orgasms are faked without force. Forced orgasms are completely different from fake orgasms. Just separate the two.
It's because he doesn't actually believe that porn contains any actual sexual activity.
The International Child Sex Trafficking Industrial Complex. Part 2. How it works. Short-form commentary number 11.
How do these child sex trafficking rings and ring busts work exactly? Instead of busting them down all at once and then dissolving the rings and making it impossible for anyone to establish one to begin with, they couldn't be further from the interests they pretend to have for the sake of foreign policy.
So yeah, I have no idea what the fuck foreign policy has anything to do with any of this at all whatsoever, and I don't care! This entire video, specifically from Bryan, was actually profoundly boring.
We're all to blame for everything. When it comes to this, short-form rant number 11.
Shouldn't we all just blame ourselves for everything that's happening at the end of the day in this context alone?
No.
We can't just sit on our asses and blame absolutely fucking everything on predators and monsters abroad and only them, as if it can't possibly be our own faults, alongside with being the federal government's fault too, for bringing out our own fresh blood into a cesspit of HIV, AIDS, and bad foreign policy.
So basically blame everybody and everything other than the predator and or predators in question. Alrighty then.
For those who won't take blame for what their kids do or have done, you shouldn't have had kids to begin with. I shouldn't have to be the one to point it all out to you all. You should already know this by now, and you should have known better. Just take all of this shit into consideration if you stumble upon any one of these retarded, narcissistic, entitled, know-it-all motherfuckers and cuckafluckers.
What the fuck is a cuckaflucker? What does that mean, Bryan?
TICSTIC, Part 3, What to Do About It, Short Form Commentary, number 12.
Here to make a whole laundry list of suggestions and ideas as to what to do about all this. Number 1, strengthen and embolden anti-child sex trafficking laws while getting rid of anti-CP laws at the same time, punishing not just the said child sex traffickers, but also the child prostitutes as well, given that prostitution in general is morally wrong and illegal anyway.
You want to legalize child porn, but you want to make child trafficking illegal-er, I guess. I'm so confused. Oh, man.
When I say to punish both the child sex trafficker and child prostitute, I mean either giving them both life without parole, and for the prostitute, if they can be tried as an adult, if their age is close enough, if the prostitute is prepubescent, legally authorize the killing of such because children cannot be tried as an adult.
I could have cut that out of the video, because he said it like, once or twice now already? But I never get tired of hearing it. There is no take better than kill the child prostitute.
Only if the parent blatantly refuses to or can't recover the said prostitute or child of their own making, because they're far gone, mentally and even sexually.
How do you sexually recover a child? What is that? What does that mean?
Make it illegal for the government, deep state, and others to sexually exploit children. Short form rant, number 12.
Hi everybody, I am Bryan Mullins the Fox. Welcome to the second to last short form rant of the month of April. This is by far the most important thing to talk about all month, by the way.
So I clipped a bunch of highlights from this video of Bryan's and had recorded a bunch of responses to it. However, now in editing, I've come to realize that none of it actually makes any sense and in reality is kind of boring. However, more importantly than that, the entire foundation of his whole argument is fucking stupid. How do you ban the deep state? It makes no coherent sense, and I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. And honestly, I don't even care.
TICSTIC, Part 4 of 4, Recap, Final, and Conclusion.
I know it may seem insane, but I'm clearly not.
Yeah, clearly. You're clearly not insane, Bryan. Absolutely, clearly.
All the supposed so-called counter-arguments are practically non-arguments by default, because they would have to either be practically predicated on a lie, or just be wrong for the sake of being wrong. And nobody is going to respond to this in good faith, without having to lie about at least one thing I actually said at best, and at worst, one would lie about everything I actually said, twist them, and take them out of context, so I wouldn't say anything anymore.
So essentially, in a nutshell, what he's saying is, I'm right and fuck you, because I'm right.
Because apparently no one's interested in what I talk about, despite me talking about it in videos they don't care to watch. And they want me to respond, and they want me to join their calls and do all that. I'm not doing that.
I would give you $100 if you joined one of my streams or what have you, just to have a conversation. I'm like actually your biggest fan. I will pay you money to join my fucking stream for, let's say, an hour or maybe 2 hours if you're feeling ambitious. Just a conversation. Like, come on.
Moving on from all this and a better future. Short form rant, number 13.
And for the month of May, I'm mainly just going to be doing short form commentaries and not rants. So, sorry to break it to you, I'm going to be taking a break from ranting after this, so I can cool off and try to adjust for my strict weekly schedule. So I'm sorry if this upsets anyone.
Oh no, no more rants. Fuck. That's tragic.
I just want to move on from topics like this from now on.
You know, Bryan, you had a choice in what topic you wanted to bring up, and you chose this one. So, That's all on you, buddy. Alright, so that's the end of the video. I'd like to give a special thanks to Beckett from Cope and Seethe for narrating all of that shit, essentially being the genie in all of this.
I am black now.
I'd also like to thank Lio Convoy, believe it or not, for drawing the PFP art of Bryan, in addition to the thumbnail you actually saw when you clicked the video. And last but not least, I'd also like to thank you, the viewer, for suffering through this entire video, assuming you made it this far. If you like videos like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and all that other shit, and maybe even comment if you really feel so inclined. But if you really enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon. Links are down below. And of course, by joining my Patreon, you can have whatever name you want listed at the end of my video like you're seeing right now, in addition to other perks, of course. Thanks for watching. That's all I got. Go fuck yourself.